We know that it's free for members to be able to attend these runs, which is awesome. But obviously there's expenses involved. How does the business side look like on how are you able to invest back into the run club? When you first started to share more about your running journey, especially knowing that that is not the content that was taking off, what was it that helped you to be able to really lean into it and be consistent with it?
What was the transition for yourself of how you saw yourself from that business owner to influencer transition? For someone considering an in-person community, how would you even think about starting that?
Welcome back to the Sustainable Creator Podcast. Today we are joined by Tatiana Forbes, who is an entrepreneur, content creator, and founder of Best for Last Run Club, a pace-inclusive running community helping women prioritize themselves through movement and community. Before building her platform online, Tatiana spent years coaching entrepreneurs in leadership, operations, and team development. She helped business owners build more sustainable companies and stronger teams. After navigating burnout, motherhood, and a major personal pivot, which you will hear about today, she transitioned into content creation and community building, where she's grown a very engaged audience around running, confidence, wellness, and reinvention. What makes Tatiana's story unique is her ability to combine business strategy with authentic community building, turning both her platform and Run Club into spaces that deeply connect with women across the country. I am personally very excited about today's conversation because I have followed along with Tatiana's journey since I believe it was 2019 at least. And I've been able to have this front row seat almost to seeing all the different evolutions in her personal brand and her ventures as a creator. And I'm really excited for you guys to hear about that today, as well as how she has built such an active and engaged community. So welcome to the show, Tatiana. We're really, really happy that you're here.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. And just hearing you say, like, since 2019, it's like, wow, you've really seen me go through a lot of evolutions.
I have. And it's been amazing too. You've really owned each one with so much grit and confidence. And I'm sure it didn't always feel that way on the back end, but just, looking at how you have handled each phase has been very admirable for me. So I'm excited to dive into all of that. Where do we want to start?
I am so excited about the portion of this conversation, like building an in-person community. But just like your intro kind of segued us into, I think we have to start further back. So if we pull back to the first time that you actually did community or built groups, to my understanding, that was when you were coaching. Can you tell us a little bit about like what you learned from the coaching side of what makes a good in-person community?
Yeah, for sure. So I was leading a coaching program called Grindaholics Anonymous, and it was primarily for business that were in that like 6-figure to almost 7-figure range that were needing to build a team either for the first time or they had a team that just wasn't working the way that it needed to work. And I really think we launched that program in the height of like group coaching in general. And so the community online was great. The girls were very engaged. I think a good part of what made the community so strong is the fact that we were talking about something so vulnerable like leadership and asking for help. But I pretty quickly noticed that just a gap and that there was this need for in-person community. And this was also as the pandemic was kind of starting to not wind down, but people were starting to go back outside a little bit more. And so we hosted our first in-person retreat here in Atlanta. We ended up doing, I think, 4 of them over the course of a couple years. And I just thought to myself, like, I want to make this super high touch. Like, I don't want to have 400 people in a room reading from a workbook, slides on a screen. So I rented out a really nice Airbnb in Atlanta, and the girls came for 2.5 days. We learned a lot, right? Like we kind of expanded on what they were already learning in the program and kind of taking it a step further. We had really great speakers come in. We had a private chef come in one night. We went out to dinner on for a rooftop restaurant experience. And I think it just took the experience to the next level. So that was like my first taste of in-person community. And I knew that was something that I wanted to pour more of myself into.
Yeah, I want to come back to the experience piece later on, but I'm curious, can you give us like the broad strokes of the phases that got you to where you are now, being a full-time influencer, working with brands, running Best for Last Run Club? You started on entrepreneurship. What happened after that got you to here?
Ooh, okay. Loaded question.
We're great at
So
this.
I was running my coaching, not just program, but just business from, I would say, 2019 until 2023. So my husband and I, we got married in 2022. We got pregnant, and my son was born in January of 2023. And I'm not going to say I had like the typical postpartum depression experience, but it really felt like that in the moment. And my business was this really interesting point because I had him in January. I came back from maternity leave in April. And at the time, I had 2 full-time team members, 5 contractors. Between them and myself, like close to $30,000 a month in overhead. And I don't know, like something while I was out on my maternity leave, something just shifted in me, and I really desired something much more low key. I wanted to take a lot of that pressure off of myself. My coaching program was at this interesting place where we didn't operate in a cohort model. It was definitely evergreen, but of course most of our enrollments came from our launches. And so we had like a group of people that were all graduating the program in May. And so I had to make a decision. Do I want to gear back up, launch again, fill my program up again, or do I want to just naturally let this thing kind of fizzle out? And so that's what I did. I had to make a lot of really hard decisions because while I was on maternity leave, our income started to decrease pretty drastically. Um, and I ended up having to let my team go. It was a really hard time. I felt like a failure, felt like, how am I going to teach people how to have a team if I don't even have one myself? Um, but shortly after letting them go, like I knew that I had made the right decision. Um, and I kept taking one-on-one clients through the end of that year. And at the end of the year, I just kind of, decided that I just didn't want anymore. I can stop there or I can keep going, but
I I have a follow-up question because one of
yeah.
the things that we talk about a lot is the idea of pivoting, and this for you is interesting that you made the comment of I knew I made the right decision, and that is something that oftentimes happens. Clarity comes after action rather than before. Is there any like signs or signals that you saw before the action of making this shift that gave you confidence you were going in the right direction?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, say evidence that I knew I needed to make and that I wasn't making because I was scared. I remember having conversations with my husband in October of the year prior. So, I think I'm at this point nearing into my 3rd trimester of pregnancy. I'm tired. I'm huge. Physically, like moving is just a lot for me. And October was typically one of the times that we had like our biggest launches of the year. And I just didn't have it. I didn't have the energy to do it. And I was telling my husband, like, I think this is going to be bad because if we're not padding our income now, like 6 months from now, things aren't going to be looking good. And, I would always have this conversation with myself, like, oh, maybe it's just my mindset. But, like a lot of the coaching industry really drills that into your head that a lot of things are just mindset when sometimes it's actually, the business is just telling you what it needs at that time.
Yeah.
So I should have, in hindsight, started to like reduce the size of my team back in October because what was happening in October was an indication of what was going to happen about 6 months later. I just didn't want to face the
Yeah.
music.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like after doing that, it was hard. There were a lot of tears shed from them, from me. I still paid severance. I put myself in a really bad spot to do that, but I wanted to do what I perceived to be the right thing. But after some of the guilt started to like settle a little bit, I just felt this relief. Like I felt literal pounds coming off of my shoulders because I could just enjoy being with my baby. I didn't have to worry about how am I going to make
Mm.
$30,000 every month to pay everybody.
Yeah, that is so similar to our story with closing down the photo business to go all in on business coaching because very similar to like seeing signs. I think from the outside looking in, a lot of people will see these pivots that happen, and because they don't know everything happening on the back end, they simply just don't have that wealth of understanding that you do of what is leading to that decision. And, even for us, we had a super slow, like downtick. What is the word I'm looking for?
Downturn.
Like downturn, in photo clients. And the data was also supporting that decision for us to shift into something else that was going to be more meaningful, more aligned, and profitable in the long term. And so I completely understand what you probably felt in that moment, because it can be really difficult to make those decisions. And what I'm hearing is you were very rooted in what was best for you and your family. And that was what allowed you to really lean into that decision, as challenging as it may have been at the time.
Yeah, for sure. And something else I think I realized, one, as somebody who was going through it, but also like looking at it through the lens of team and leadership, is like when you're building your team, you have these people, and if you hire the right people, you feel like they're in it with you. But it wasn't until I had to face the music that I learned nobody is truly in it with you, because you're the one left holding the bag, like I'm the one who was left with the debt that I accrued by trying to keep them on for longer than I needed to. I was the one that was left with, winding down client operations. And it's no, fault to them. It's just the way that it is. As the CEO, we take on responsibilities that we don't even realize until things like this kind of start to happen. And I think that taught me a lot about how I want to run business in the future. Like, I don't know that I desire to have like a super big infrastructure. Doesn't mean that my income goals have shrinked
Right.
at all or shrunk. It's just more so to say, like, I think I want to build things a little different next time, so that it's just not so much pressure on me to not only perform as a business owner or a creator, but also operationally, so that I can maintain things behind the scenes.
This is reminding me of the sunk cost fallacy. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we talk about this all the time, where like you'll get to this point and a lot of entrepreneurs either double down or they cut their losses and move on. And when you talk about investments, whether it's your time, your energy, your money, etc., there comes this point where you have to decide, am I going to double down and just try to make this work, or am I going to pay attention to the data and my instincts and my intuition and cut my losses and see it's a sunk cost. Like what's done is done, but we can pivot and move forward accordingly.
I think for me, like one of the stats that has been kind of blowing my mind recently is we're bumping right up to the first single person $1 billion company. With like the tools that are available now, you can automate so much. You can build systems so much. And what used to be the only way to scale your company was adding headcount. There's so many other tools and processes and opportunities available. And so there's so many cool things that are possible now that even 5 or 10 years ago just weren't. And it's just interesting, like as you're thinking about like the next phase of your business can be different without sacrificing those income goals.
Yeah, for sure. And I also think it's not a thing to say like having actual people on your team isn't valuable, because it is. But I also think like I now would look at things through the lens of what is absolutely necessary for this business to run, versus I used to hire based on what the business, so based on what I needed, like what was going to make my life easier, my life more convenient. And I don't know that I would do that in the next iteration of a business, because your needs shift, your desires shift. And if you're always hiring, it's almost like making decisions based on a feeling. If you're only hiring based on what you're feeling in the moment, then you're either going to be constantly letting people go and hiring people, or you're going to look up one day like me and realize your bed is just entirely too big.
Right. Yeah.
And that was the beginning of a pretty big pivot for you.
Yes.
So that was phase 1. What was phase 2?
Phase 2 was me going back to work. And that was hard, because I just think there's so much ego that goes into being a business owner
sure.
and putting yourself out there online to people. So part of my decision to go back to work was I think I went down to 2 one-on-one clients, and it was kind of the same thing. Like, do I want to push and get more clients, or do I want to take a break from this? Having calls on my calendar was just such a big game changer for me. Um, but then also, again, I had a new baby and I just wanted some reliability when it came to my income. And so I became a project manager for a university. I was working from home. It was great. A lot of what we do as business owners is very project management in anyways. So I found the job to be gishly easy. So it just worked. And I did that for about 2 years. While I was doing that, I was just recovering mentally from postpartum. I was learning to let go of some of the guilt that I was still carrying from my business, which I still have, I'm still working on that. And then I started running. And so I discovered running, I would say late summer of 2023, and it quickly became an outlet for me to just, I don't know, like relieve stress as a new mom, but also just like have time for me and to connect back to myself. And like, I never had time to just not think about anything. My brain is always going a mile a minute. And so running was like my time to disconnect. And I started sharing my journey while I was running. And early on, I was only posting on TikTok. My videos were getting 200 views max. Um, but whenever I would post like motherhood content, it would get tons of views. But I remember feeling conflicted because I didn't want to be a mom creator. I didn't really want to share my kids online that much. Um, but I told my husband, I was like, you know what? I don't care if nobody's watching me run. I'm going to keep posting it because I'm running and it's just what I'm actually doing in real life right now. And sure enough, like eventually, like I want to say like 6 months in, my video started getting some like real traction. I got over my fear to post on Instagram because I was afraid of what everyone in the coaching world was going to think
Yeah.
of me. Like,
Right.
oh, she quit her business to be an influencer. Like, that's weird. And I don't even know if people actually thought that. Maybe they did. Who cares? But yeah, I finally started posting on Instagram and things just really started to happen. I was getting like gifted partnerships. I got my first paid partnership. I got an offer to run my first marathon, which was Every Woman's Marathon. That was my first 5-figure brand deal. And yeah, things just like kind of really took off from there. And that's also where my run club came into play. Because I am a slower runner, that's a big part of my brand is like normalizing the average, everyday, slower paced runner. And I would go to run clubs to meet people and to be in community. And I was always the slowest one there. I was either getting left behind or I felt like people were just waiting on me because they felt bad. And so I just asked myself, like, if I can't be the only one feeling this way, there have to be other runners out there that wish they had community. And so, yeah, I started Best for Last and we had our first meetup and we had like almost 30 people show up in the dead of winter. This was like
Wow.
That's
December.
cool.
And so, yeah, it really took off from there. So we've been doing this for about 1.5 years now.
That slow runner verbiage is part of what really hooked me in when you started sharing your running content. And just for what it's worth, also seeing, because I've been around since what feels like the beginning, seeing you go through all these different phases. And I saw when you went back to work at the university, and I saw when you stepped into more running content and sharing influencer type things. Both of those stages just filled me with so much joy because I could see how much lightness you had back and how much joy you had pursuing what you wanted. And I think that's such a powerful example for people to be able to see. And you don't get that feedback oftentimes when you're in it because you're just posting and doing what you need to do for what works for you, right? But from the outside looking in, I loved seeing you go after what you wanted, even if it was quote unquote unconventional or not what people may have expected, because I could see how positively it affected you in your life. And at the end of the day, I think all that matters is that you are happy, you know? And I know parents feel that way about their kids. I think it's also more common than we realize for us to feel that way about our peers. So just to put that out there. But going back to the slow runner verbiage, that really pulled me in because I am getting into running myself this year.
Ooh.
I'm not a fast runner at all. And something that really intimidates me about, I would love to join a run club, but that's my first thought of like, I'm going to be at the back of the pack. I'm not going to be able to keep up, and I'm going to burn my lungs out if I try. And so I just run on my own, and seeing you build a community that reclaims that title for people and normalizes it has been really, really encouraging for me, even if I'm not in your neck of the woods, you know, and if you ever do one in Indy, I will be there immediately. So talk to us a little bit about how did it look building a running club? Like, what you mentioned that 30 people showed up to the first one, but like if we back up a little bit from there, what did the logistics look like of hosting that first run club?
Yeah, so I had kind of created the branding for the club, and I think that's like the coaching industry in me, in my blood. Like I can't just like show up and do it. So yeah, I had already fully created like the Best for Last branding and the Instagram page. I don't think we had a website at that point, but yeah, I just made a flyer, and the first run was actually in Kennesaw. So if you're not familiar with the area, Atlanta is like the major city, but I live about 25 minutes north without traffic. With traffic, it can be like 40 minutes. And most of the things that are happening in Atlanta are in the city of Atlanta, but most of us live outside of Atlanta in the suburbs, you know, surrounding the city. And so I was like, I don't always want to drive to Atlanta for a run club. So surely there have to be other people who don't want to either. And so, yeah, I just hosted one here in Kennesaw, and I maybe promoted it for like 2 weeks. And for the very first run, I think I already had a flag made because I wanted the branding to like really like resonate with people from the beginning. And we may have had pace signs that we hold that say like 10 minutes per mile, 11 minutes, 12 minutes, 13, 14, all the way down to walking. So that also gives people a way to immediately identify the community. Like, oh, I run about a 14-minute mile. I'm going to stick with this pace group. And early on, we also used to go out for breakfast after. And so that was a time for us to like, you know, connect even deeper. So there wasn't a whole lot that went into it, but the girls just, I think, really resonated with the slow runner aspect of it and feeling like they could show up without the pressure of, you know, having to speed through their run.
Okay, for context, where is the club at now in terms of like how many people on average show up to your group runs?
So between both cities, so between Kennesaw and Atlanta, I would say we have anywhere between, I would say around 80 people that come to like between the two. Atlanta is definitely bigger. We usually have like 50, maybe 60 people that'll come. Kennesaw has stayed around like that 25 to 40 mark. But then the other cool thing is anytime I travel a race, I host runs in other cities. So I've runs in New York, Orlando, Savannah, Scottsdale, Arizona, and we have tons of girls that show up to each one. Like I just hosted a run in Houston. I feel like we had like almost 30 people that came. New York, we had about 30 people that came. So it's just really cool to see that I could show up in any major, and I know that there are going to be best for last girls that are eager to run together.
I think it's interesting, like hearing you talk about like having flags for each time or like going to breakfast, or all of those things in my mind fall into the experience bucket. And if we go all the way back to where we started, like you running a group coaching program, you cared about the experience a lot. And I can see that through line of you learned over here that experience matters a lot to how people show up. And for you, I don't think that that was just like something that happened. You were very intentional about planning out the experience of joining a run club. How did you think about planning that, or do research on it, or prepare for like those experience moments as you were putting together a community?
I mean, to be honest, I feel like the main sentiment is kind of like that cheesy, be the change you wish to see in the world statement, because I went to a lot of run clubs and I just thought about all the things that I didn't love that I wished they would have had. One thing that's oddly uncommon at most run clubs is for people to just like introduce themselves to you or like talk to you or like kind of shout you out for being there for the first time. And so the first thing is anybody who comes, I try to personally talk to them and like meet them. Um, Something that is not lost on me is that my content that I post really resonates with people and inspires them. And oftentimes when they're coming to Run Club, they're excited to be at Run Club, but they're also just excited to like meet the person that they've been inspired for so long. So I make an effort to hug them, ask them their name, how they hear about us, check in with them at the end of the run to see like how they enjoyed it. When we get started, we always ask who's here for the first time. They raise their hands. We like clap it up for them. When we get done with our run, we hold space for people to share their wins, any PRs that they may have had. So I think the biggest thing is I just want everyone to feel extremely special and seen
Mm-hmm.
and not like they're just another number. Even when we have 200 people show up to like our run that we did in Scottsdale, I never want somebody to feel like just a number, but like an active participant in a community that cares about them.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that's really interesting is like as we're building an online community, one of the things that we've noticed is the more that we do those things, the more our members do those things for new people as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because like for us, onboarding a new member is like we'll get on a call and get to know them face to face because we've never seen them before. And one of our checklist items is, can we introduce them to at least 2 people in the community already? Because it's not just the relationship with us that makes a good community. It's the peer relationships and how do we, especially like in an online space, it's harder to make those connections. But like once we started doing this, we noticed our members were doing it as well of like, oh yeah, I'm already messaging with them.
Yeah.
And that was such a cool thing for us of like, oh, our members are replicating what we are doing in a way that is building on the model of what community means to us.
Yeah, for sure. No, I love that. And as the club has grown, we've brought on leads. So basically, they lead the different pace groups as we're running. And, anytime someone's interested in being a run lead, they're like, well, how fast do I need to run? Basically, like, they're wondering how good they need to be at the sport. And I'm like, I just need to
Mm-hmm.
talk to people. If you can talk to people while
Mm-hmm.
you run, like, that's literally all I care about. So our run leads are trained to talk with the girls, ask what what races they have coming up, what they're training for, making them feel comfortable because, I mean, if they can think back to not only the first time they went to a run club, the first time you went to a networking event or business event, it's very like nerve-wracking, especially if you don't come with a friend and you don't know how to like break that ice. So like we try to have systems in place to break the ice, for them.
Ooh, okay, let's talk about systems because this is also a really fun piece of your background that I can see became a transferable skill. How do systems show up for you in the Run Club?
Yeah. Well, I think every run runs exact same. Um, it's predictable and it's reliable. So girls know what experience they're going to get. I once, my husband and I got into a car accident on Valentine's Day and we had a run scheduled for the day after. And I was okay. Like I wasn't super hurt, but I was a little sore. And so I had to reach out to my team the night before and I was like, hey, I need you guys to do this without me. And they had never hosted a run without me before. And it was our Galentine's run. We were handing out roses to all the girls. And I think it may have been one of our best runs we've ever had. Um, and that just showed me like, okay, our system is working. So yeah, we have a system for exactly how our runs should function and flow. We have a setup process. Our table always looks the same. We have a digital sign-in process with a QR code. We're launching a text aspect of it now so that people can get text reminders about runs and text reminders about other events that we may have coming in. They sign in digitally, they sign out digitally. And that's how we make sure, especially with our bigger runs, that no girls got lost on the course, that nobody's left. And then we also have a caboose, if you will, like somebody who walks at the very back to make sure
Mm-hmm.
nobody is left behind.
Love
Um,
that.
So yeah, and I'm looking forward to using these systems because we are expanding into a licensing model where people are going to be able to license chapters in their city. And so it was really important to me that we had those systems so that the same experience, whether you're in LA or Indy.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that is awesome. I really love hearing the business side of things because we're nerds about that. I would really like to hear about how you approach it from a pricing perspective, because from talking with you, we know that it's free for members to be able to attend these runs, which is awesome. But obviously, there's expenses involved. You know, if you've got a table of supplies for people, if you've got people volunteering their time, like there are some resources that need to be involved to pay for some of these things. So, how does the business side look like on how are you able to invest back into the Run Club?
Yeah. Well, I'll be honest, early on, I paid for everything out of pocket, like the flag, our tablecloth, our pace signs, like all of that was me. But now we make most of our money through brand partnerships. I have chosen to like committed to not charging people for runs. Now we do want to branch out into more social events, and those likely will have a cost, like $20, $25, something like that, depending on what the event is. But as far as like running, there's no cost associated. Um, I'll be honest, like I get way more brand deals personally than I get through the club, but that's something that I'm really focused on this year. I
Hmm.
really want to get a long-term sponsor for the club. We actually got an offer, a really well-known beverage brand, but it's just not a good deal. And I think we would have really regretted taking it. Um, But yeah, and then with our licensing model, there is going to be a fee associated. It'll be a few $100s to start a chapter, but that really is just break even for us. That's just going to cover the materials that they need so that the chapter can get started, and then we can focus on getting local brand partnerships to like really fund the club that way.
Can you give an example of some of the brand partnerships you guys have been able to do with the Run Club?
Yeah, so we have one coming up right now with a shoe brand where they're hosting a run at like a local running store, and we are just kind of tagging along to that event and bringing people to help them, have as many attendees as possible. And I also had to post one set of stories, and then I'll do one reel. Um, and that was $5,000 for the club. And then we did another one where we promoted a food product to the Run Club, a very high quality food product that, we all know and love. Um, and all we had to do for that was they sent product over to share with the girls at Run Club. And then I had to make a reel about it and then a set of stories. And I believe that was $7,000. So just like small things like that really go along and help us to be able to do different things. And yeah, I think if we could do several of those per month, like that would be awesome. I'm only just now really starting to see how I can monetize the club. Um, I've really viewed this as like, one, it's something I genuinely love to do, but I also just think it's something that amplifies my personal brand and gives my personal brand more credibility.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. The couple of things that stood out to me with that is one, you're able to make far more from working with a brand than you might be able to charging members at its current size.
For
And that's just fascinating to me of thinking outside of the box and being business savvy about your decisions. Like that's a very strategic move. The other thing that is so cool to me is you have built this entire thing around a shared interest by simply posting about something you cared about that then took off and you were able to bring people in who cared about it too. And you built a community around that. That is really, really cool for me. And I want to go back to the influencer slash personal brand side of things for a moment, because you just mentioned part of your goal with Best for Last is tied back into your personal brand. Like the two leverage each other, they're in tandem. So when you first started to share more about your running journey, especially knowing that that is not the content that was taking off. What was it that helped you to be able to really lean into it and be consistent with it? Because when we think about showing up online, like there is a certain level of validation that can help posting consistently for many of us.
Yeah.
And when you're not seeing that at first, it's easy to have this thought of like, well, what's the point of, keeping up with this? So did that happen for you? And if so, how did you push past that?
Yeah. So you could ask any of my friends in the coaching world. I had been talking about wanting to venture into influencer marketing for years. I've had one foot in, one foot out for years. And after like going back to work and just kind of clearing the slate and not having this, you know, my focus so split between business and content, which had previously been my dilemma. Because I'm like, okay, I'm making $50,000 a month over here. Why would I split my time to try to make $500 over here? But now that that had put aside, I just told myself I'm going to keep posting. Luckily, I'm posting about something that I'm actually doing. So I'm not having to go out of my way to create this content. I'm just going to keep posting and see what happens. And I think that's what helped me like stick with it is like I just got tired of thinking about how much time I've wasted saying I'm going to, really give it a try and not actually giving it a try. Um and then I'm not going to lie, like when it started taking off, it took off. And at that point what kept me like really locked in was just seeing not only like the engagement, but like the types of, I cannot tell you guys the types of comments and DMs that I get, the types of interactions I have when I meet girls at races. It is just so beyond impactful. And I'm really learning what like an influencer truly is and the power of influence. Like for girls to tell me that they never thought they could run and now they're running their first marathon, 26.2 miles because of my content, like that
Yeah.
is such like it's life-changing to hear that, much less to hear it on a regular basis. So that's
Right.
what really fuels me now is like I know that this work goes beyond my own personal running journey. Like it's really changing the lives of so many people.
Yeah.
If you think about that time period, like you talked about what you're posting, there's also like an internal component of your identity for a long time was I'm a business owner, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a coach. And there's that like feeling of how do other people see me that you've talked about a little bit. But what was the transition for yourself of how you saw yourself from that business owner to influencer transition?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it was really hard. I mean, even now, I still sometimes like doubt myself or my like abilities. Um, but I think the transition really happened or started to happen at the end of 2024 when I ran my first marathon, Every Woman's Marathon. I was in Savannah, Georgia. My whole family came, some of my friends came, and they got to see firsthand. Like, I no joke probably met 300 people out on the course throughout the weekend. People come to
Wow.
me, like, I remember being at the expo, which is where you go to, like, pick up your bib, you can, like, shop different
Hmm.
vendors, kinda like a fun thing to do the day before the race, and I remember talking to this girl who came up to me, and I knew it, there was a line formed of people that, like, wanted to and, even my
Wow.
husband was just like, "This is crazy, like, this is actually crazy," and I think that was probably one of the big moments where I realized, like, this is real, like, this is
Right.
we are beyond I'm posting my silly little videos and I'm scared of what people will think, like, I don't have time to think about what other people are thinking of me
Right.
because
Right.
look at the beautiful thing that I have in front of me. So yeah, that was a life-changing weekend for more reasons than one. It was also my first time
Yeah.
marathon, like, I pushed
Right.
my body I pushed my body
Mhm.
Yeah.
never done before. Um, so yeah, that really changed everything for me.
How many marathons have you run since then?
I've run 3 total
That's awesome.
and
Okay,
7 half
and
marathons.
are you allowed to share the marathons that you're running this year? Because I know I've seen that you're partnering with a couple of companies on a couple of races.
Yeah. So I'm running the Lululemon Seawees Half Marathon, which is in Vancouver in August. So I'm really excited about that. And I'm running that with Runna, which is a running training app that I partner with on a pretty regular basis. And then I'm planning to also run Every Woman's Marathon again in February, which is going to be in New Orleans, Louisiana this time. And I partner with Every Woman's Marathon, but more specifically, I partner with Board and Dairy, which is like the local milk brand, uh, to run that race. So, yeah, I'm excited. It's going to be a good time.
No, it's so cool to me.
If I think about this from the perspective of a lot of our audience, creative entrepreneurs, they are not wanting to fully close their business and take all of the steps that you have taken. Is there still value in taking like the influencer type of content track and building your audience that way around a specific niche that you see?
Absolutely. Influencer marketing, whether we like it or not, is absolutely taking over the way companies market. Billboards are less of a thing. Commercials are becoming like brands are spending their money with creators because we are able to create that trust so much faster than a brand could create it through their own marketing channels. And so even if you don't want to close your business, right, to become an influencer, there is still opportunity out there for you through your business. So for example, if you are somebody who does web design, then you could easily be partnering with um, the platforms that you build on, the tools that you use, small business, um, tools that you might use to find like graphics. I'm thinking of like Creative Market, that kind of thing. Before I transitioned into doing this, I actually did try my hand at like influencing within my business. So I worked with an accounting company, Bench, and a couple like other small business brands. I see people partnering with like Flowdesk. So there's a lot of
Mhm.
opportunities within your niche. But then also, I think there's a lot of opportunity to brand yourself differently from your business. So you have your agency, but then your personal brand, you can open up a lot of opportunities to get lifestyle brand deals, and your whole personal brand could essentially be the life of a CEO. You don't have to be, showing your kids and
Hmm.
your running
Mhm.
or whatever. But there is just so much money out there, and business owners already have so much influence. I think that's something that like, business owners don't necessarily realize. They think it's a different skill, and it is. But I had a bit of a competitive edge as an influencer coming into this as somebody who previously owned a business than somebody who was just coming into it very green. So
Hmm.
use that to your advantage.
Okay, when you say competitive edge, can you expand on that thought? I want to hear more about that.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people when they're first getting started with creating content, they don't know how to like they don't know the strategy aspect of it. So they're just kind posting, they're throwing spaghetti at the wall. But we have planned launches. We have, created new products. We have, um, gotten clients to re-sign with us. So we already understand like the strategy element of how do I take my person from a cold lead to a buyer? And it's the same thing with influencing, honestly. Like, how do I take somebody from scrolling on their FYP to becoming a follower who's super engaged, comments and likes on every video? Um, so yeah, I think that's one really big thing. Also just knowing how to structure a video, like you know how to tell a story with a beginning, middle, and end with a call to action at the end, except instead of the call to action being sign up for my webinar or a sales call, the call to action is click the link in my bio.
Mm,
So yeah, I think that like helps you bypass a lot of the confusion of creating content.
yeah.
I think one of the things that we have found really interesting is exactly like you're talking about, like partnering with people that you already work with consistently. Like software is one of our favorite ones. Of like on a daily basis, we touch like 3 or 4 software platforms, and we have partnered with multiple of them as like affiliates or ambassadors or on content itself, which makes it really easy to use those same skills just in a different way on like the influencer side,
Mhm.
which is exactly how you're talking about it.
Yeah. No, I there's just so much money out there. Like you would be shocked at how big brands' budgets are. And it would be silly of us to not it's just another
Yeah.
stream of income we could easily be adding.
Right. Yeah. It's always wild to me to remember that big brands have big budgets. And if they don't use those budgets, they're scrambling to figure out how they can spend the rest of that money in that budget by the end of the year. And that's just not something that is on most business owners' radar. It's so unfathomable to think about. So again, that kind of comes back to thinking outside of the box and being creative in those business moves, in my opinion, which I just really love that side of things.
If I start rounding us out in this conversation a little bit, for someone considering a community or an in-person community, niche-based focused, and they were like, I want to start this for myself. I am looking for people to form community with. How would you even think about starting that process? Like for you, it sounded like it took time and like you posted about something, you love running, you formed online connections, and then you started a community. Is that the playbook you would recommend?
I mean, I think it starts with asking yourself the question, like, what am I wanting in a community? Like, I think it's totally okay to build a community for yourself because chances are what you want, a lot of other people want too. So what am I wanting in community that I'm currently not finding, and how could I create that? Um, and share that with other people so that, they can be a part of it too. So I think that's one part of it. And then I think the other is like really just getting out of your head about it. Like people will say like, "Oh, I just don't know if people are going to find this valuable or if anybody would want to come," and you would be surprised. There are communities for everything. There are knitting clubs, there are book clubs, there are go out to eat and try different restaurant clubs. There are like literally everything you can imagine. So like the time that you're going to waste thinking about it, you could just be spending that time doing it. And if it starts with one person, two people, only your friend shows up, like don't be discouraged by that. Just continue to share the experience and people will come.
Yeah, could not agree more. To give you guys who are listening a bit of a spoiler alert, we actually put together an exclusive workbook. So if you are someone who is wanting to dive into how do I build a community and what does that look like for me and the people I want inside of it, you can get that link in the show notes, and it will walk you through all the different steps to take so that you can get started with that process. Clearly, there's a huge need for it. I think going full circle, something you mentioned at the beginning was that part of this story started for you in the pandemic. And something I have seen so much in the past few years is we are so starved for connection that everyone is trying to almost make up for lost time. Like I definitely feel that way, where it felt like we were so isolated for a time. And why would you not, build community in the areas that you are craving, knowing what we went through? And so it just like adds even more meaning to the discussion. And anyway, that's my mini soapbox on that. But if you guys are interested in building a community, download that workbook. The link is in the description for you to do that.
I think that kind of rounds us into lightning round. A couple quick questions that we'll run through that generally go sideways and take longer than quick. But the goal is for them to be quick.
Okay.
What is a book you are currently reading?
Start With Yourself by Emma Grede.
Favorite book of the year. I love that book so much. Also, I saw that you got to go see her in person. I love that for you so much. I was like scouring for tickets and they were all sold out.
I hugged her.
It looked amazing. I love that. I love that so much. Just like channel all of her business savviness through osmosis. Yeah. That book was fantastic. Okay, next question is, what is your current workout split? And can you define what a workout split is for anyone who doesn't know?
Yeah. So a workout split is essentially like what your cadence of workouts is for a given week. I'm going to tell you what my ideal workout split is. Do I actually
Even better.
follow it? So ideally I'm running 2 to 3 times a week. It doesn't have to be long distance. It could be just a couple miles. And then I'm lifting in the gym twice a week. Because I only do twice, it's full body both days generally. And then I also would love to do Pilates twice a week, but that has been like the hard one because Pilates is hard and I'm always just so sore after. And so it's hard for me to like continue to go into my next workouts because my legs are broken.
Mm.
But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's like my ideal split. And then on the days that I don't work out, I just try to get in a good walk. But yeah, I'm like a 6-day a week kind of girl. It's just what keeps me happy and keeps my body happy. So
Yeah, that is my goal. I would like to work up to 6 days a week. That would be amazing.
What is a typical day in your life?
typical day of my life. Well, I am full time as of 2 months ago. So it looks a lot different now, thankfully. But I wake up around 6:30, come in my office, knock out some emails, journal, read my devotional for the day, get my son up around 7:45, get him to school, get back. I generally try to put all of my calls in the morning, um, that I can film content in the afternoon. Um, I am still figuring out my schedule, if I'm being completely honest. I get distracted very easily. I have a brick, it's downstairs, but I have like the little brick thing that has helped me a lot. Um, because a lot of my content is around working out, I do have to fit my workouts into my day because I'm often filming those. And then yeah, I typically head to pick up my son around 5, do any grocery shopping before I get him, bring him home. Me or my husband will put him down. We have dinner. When I have dinner together, and then we typically watch like 2 hours of TV, non-negotiable, every night. And then I try to get in bed by like 11:30.
Nice. Okay, I am curious. Do you have a current hyperfixation meal?
Okay, I will say I have been eating a lot of salmon salads lately. Like, I'll just buy a bag salad, like either Caesar or there's this Italian balsamic one that I like, and then I just air fry some salmon and put it on top. That's something I really love. Um, but then also like my guilty pleasure hyperfixation is just like some white queso with jalapeno in it, and I eat it with Doritos.
I
Not
actually,
good.
I
Oh,
remember you sharing about this when you first started running too. Like, it's so good. I love it. Okay.
Who are you learning from right now?
so I really enjoy, I hate to be a broken record, but I really enjoy the Immigreed podcast, Aspire, because she interviews incredible people that you don't have access to. So learning a lot from her. And then also, there's this girl on Instagram. She posts a lot of content about social media and like how to make money on social media. Um, Alex Petrikiava.
Yeah, she's new to me, but I would love to check her out.
Incredible content. Like,
Yeah,
oh, really good.
that's awesome. Okay, the last question we have for you is, do you have any questions for us?
Ooh, questions for you guys. I mean, I would be curious to know like how you have leveraged influencer marketing in your business model.
You know, it's a funny question. That's how do I think the only way I can answer this is with a brain dump.
Yep.
A couple of months ago, I had this unlock, I guess is the only way I can describe it, where I was like, you know what? Our handle is called Joe and Lyndon. I really want to lean into the personal brand side of it. And we're building our membership, the Break Room, which has its own accounts. Of course, we offer business coaching. We're still running a business, but if we come back to the personal brand side of things, how do we share more of our personality? And so that started with when we launched this podcast. Lyndon filmed my reaction in an airport because we were about to board a flight, seeing our podcast cover artwork for the first time. And that was kind of the tipping point into sharing more personal brand or influencer type content on our Instagram that's still tied back into business. But it felt so freeing for me to create. It definitely felt like it took some of the pressure off and made social media more fun. I'm still navigating what it looks like because, still need to book clients and all of that. But I do feel like personal branding is almost making a comeback of sorts, where it is becoming more fun and freeing for people to lean into. So that's kind of what how we're approaching it.
I think something that we talk about frequently is like the big little model, or where oftentimes you'll have a founder with a big personal brand and then like a smaller like business account. And so like the awareness comes from the big influencer brand that is a personal brand, because a lot of people connect with the founder, and then like the business runs really healthily because there's sprinkled in hidden vegetables of like, oh, you can work with me, all that information's over there. And so it's like the big founder that everyone connects with. They have that parasocial relationship. They trust them, and that credibility is built through being a real human, especially in a time where AI is creating fake humans. And that is now like driving trust to the brand as well, which I think is a really interesting model that we go back and forth on, like, what would that look like for us? Probably at least once a week at this point, as we think about the trust factor even more now.
Founder content is probably the best way I can describe it. I love day in the life. I love vlogs, seeing what other founders are up to. And so that also has given me more permission to just play around in this sphere. Another thing that matters a lot to me that ties into my dream life is I've been doing a ton of reflecting lately and really digging into what does that look like. And one of the first things I wrote down was healthy girl lifestyle. I really want to work out more, share more of that experience. I, want to be able to ultimately partner with athleisure brands. And, I'm a little behind on my training, but I'm supposed to be training for High Rocks later this year. And I want to share that experience too, because I think health does tie into running a business even better too. So those are a couple of ways that we're thinking about it.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah,
I
great
want
question.
to start another business at some point, and so like founder content is like so intriguing to me.
Yes.
So, I love it.
I love founder content. It's the best. Okay, well, this has been awesome. I have so many more things I want to ask you about, but we'll leave it here for now. For anyone who has additional questions or wants to connect with you or attend a future running event, where can they find you and connect with you?
Yes. So you can follow me on Instagram at _Tatiana Forbes, same handle on TikTok. Our Run Club Instagram is linked in my bio, but it's Best for Last Run Club. And if you are somebody who uses Strava, which is like an app it's almost like fitness social media where you can like share your workouts and stuff. A lot of runners use it. We have our club hosted on Strava. I think we have like 3,500 people in the Strava club, and that's where we post all of our events. It serves as like our Eventbrite. And then also just like access our website too, which is bestforlastrun.club.com. So we post all of our events literally everywhere. You can't miss them. But I would love to connect.
That is awesome. Well, guys, go connect with Tatiana. We'll have her links in the show notes for you too. And don't forget to download that workbook. If you are someone who is actively thinking about how to build a community of your own and what that looks like, this workbook will walk you through all the steps so that you get much more clear on what that can look like for you. Thank you, Tatiana. This episode has been incredible. I'm not surprised at all. Just has been really, really fun to talk about all of this. So thank you for your time, and thank you guys for listening all the way to the end. We appreciate you, and we will see you next week.